Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. So it's 11:30 at night on Saturday, October 4th, and this will go in the Monday video because I already have a bunch of voiceovers for the video tomorrow. I want to put these ideas down before I go to sleep, and they reconfigure in the morning. Sometimes it'll be better, sometimes it'll be worse, but I feel like I have a strong grasp at what I'm going to say here. Now, these voiceovers are connected from my last two videos, the video on today, Saturday, October 4th, the one tomorrow on Sunday that I'm already started, and the one probably previous to that. And they'll all be available in the 221st Journey series, as part of the membership program, where I take down all the spiritual, the spiritual knowledge, all the, journeys, like spiritual journey kind of stuff. So this is about how we never know what something is good or bad, right? If we are being honest with ourselves, everything is good. When everything is from God and everything is part of a plan, if you truly believe in God, you believe there's a plan. If you don't believe in God, you believe that things are random and chaotic and there's no overseeing consciousness, right? That there's some sort of rhyme and reason to everything. Everything's accounted for. There's a purpose for everything. There's a reason for everything happening, right? That there's some sort of order to the universe and some sort of divine consciousness overseeing everything. That's the debate between people who believe in God and people who don't. If there is no God, then there's no purpose. It's really, meaningless. You might as well enjoy your life, whatever it is that you do. Nothing you do really matters, and I don't cover this here because if that's the case, it's pointless, right? But if there is a plan, then everything is part of that plan. That means that there's things that happen in the past that are creating our present, and what we're doing in our present is creating our future, and there's reasons for everything that's happening. Everything happens for a reason. People say that. But we have trouble accepting that reason. So there are things that happen in America where the Trumpers and the Trump people and the Trump himself and all of his pals and all the people celebrate it and say it's a good thing. And the Democrats and all the liberal media and all those people say it's a bad thing. It's only based in perception, right? But most of those things are reactionary, right? Some action was taken. I talked about this some time ago, that I, shave my beard and I trim most of my hair. My wife would usually finish it up. But I can just use clippers to do that. And one day I decided not to charge my clippers. And I said, Tuesday Paul is screwing over Thursday Paul. Like when you leave a mess for yourself that you yourself are going to have to clean up, right? You don't take the time to clean it up. You don't take the time to deal with something. You just kick the can down the road. And some future version of yourself, because we can look back. I mean, I look back at times in my life where I did things, or periods in my life where I did things that I'm paying for now, right? Drug use, I use drugs and things that I'm sure have had a negative effect on my body, my liver, things like that, right? You make choices, and then you have to pay for those choices later on. Whereas, you make good choices and you learn to do things the right way, whatever it is, and you set yourself up for success. In a past version of yourself had done a good job to set your future self up for success, right? So there's, all of that. And that's part of a plan. That's part of a understanding of cause and effect and decisions we make and how those decisions affect us in the future. There are people who were celebrating Trump's second election who are now saying it's a bad thing because, you don't know until things play themselves out. And really, they have to play themselves out on a spiritual level, because on a spiritual level, you don't know why things are happening, right? Something that's undesirable on a physical level, on a human level, may be great for your soul, and oftentimes is. And so when there's an event that happens, it's like Schrodinger's cat, Schrodinger's cat, right? It's both dead and alive. It's both good and bad, right? There's the possibility of being bad, the possibility of being good, but it's really about perception. That's why I'm always talking about gratitude. When you take everything with gratitude, with this idea that it's coming from God and God must have given you this gift for some reason. And so when we're talking about the collapse of our civilization, you don't know how you're going to react to it. There are people who will feel a giant sense of relief and they will thrive in a post-apocalyptic world. They'll feel alive. They'll feel energized. They'll be connecting to God. There'll be good things that happen. That there's trauma that happens to people. Oftentimes, abuse, sexual abuse, the loss of a loved one, that triggers psychic abilities. Oftentimes people have abilities and they need some sort of trauma. They need some kind of major experience to trigger those types of abilities. So, again, something that seems undesirable is pulling something out of you and raising you to a higher level. A mom who loses a child, and that pain of separation between the mother and the child will cause the mother to reach up into the etheric world and connect with the child, and therefore be able to do this with other people. Some psychic abilities, some spiritual hidden talents that were there are emerged because of the trauma. There's things that come to mind. When I was thinking about this. So years ago, I had 3 attempts at college. I was just an underachiever, wasn't focused, didn't really understand the purpose of American life, was just, whatever. And I was able to make money in college, so I was, not the kind of money that I would have made had I graduated college, but I was, working my way through college. I always had money and things like this, so it wasn't a big deal to me. And after I graduated college, my 3rd attempt at college, I got a job in a treatment center for kids that were termed sexually reactive. These were boys between the ages of 10 or 14 that lived in a unit. They went to school in the day, and there was people who worked in the school. And then at 2 o'clock, the people that worked in the unit would pick the kids up from school, and we would act sort of like a family. And there was 5 staff, and there was 1 staff for every 3 kids. The cottage had 15 beds, so it was full. There was 15 kids there, and there was 5 staff. And the kids had to be in earshot and eyesight of all time. And they were really shitty kids. I mean, they were not only kids who experienced sexual abuse, but they were just poorly behaved. And they were all, miserable, not being away from home. It was like a prison-like, basic facility. The kids didn't like the therapy because what kid fucking would like therapy? What kid would want to talk about the traumatic things that happened to them? Sexual abuse, physical abuse, shitty parents, and just all those things. The kids would have to relive those things in therapy, and who wants to do that shit? And they were embarrassed by their, behaviors. And so we had basically 2 lesbian bosses. The one who ran the unit, there was someone who ran the unit. And there were 2 sides of the week, right? So there was some of us who worked from Wednesday to Saturday, and we work a double on Saturday. We would come in for a staff meeting on Wednesday, and the whole unit would be there together, and we'd work together for, a partial shift, and then we get training, and their therapists would come in, things like this, and then we work Thursday, Friday, and a double Saturday. The other side would work a double Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and would also come in on Wednesday. There was a unit manager, and she had worked there less than her friend who was this. They were both lesbians. They played on the same softball team. They weren't a couple. And so the one who had been there longer was she was a supervisor I had worked with on one end of the week. I went back and forth, and I was on. So at some point I was on the beginning end of the week, but then I transferred because my meditation was on Sunday, and I usually get an individual sitting. There's a group meditation on Sunday, and an individual sitting I usually get on Tuesday, and so it was just better for me to work the back end of the week. But I had worked with the one supervisor, and we got along great, and the unit manager liked me. And there was a woman who was supervisor on my end of the week, and these were like 25. These are girls that are 25. I was an old person. I was 29 at the time, right? So I was like older than most of the other people because it took me 3 tries at college, so I so I got out later, and I was working shitty jobs at 29 when I should have been, whatever. That was the way it went. And so, the price of underachieving, right? So there was a woman there. She left. She got a better job. people stayed there for about 9 months. And they wanted me to do the job. But there was two girls that I worked with, and one of them worked the first end of the week, right? And I'd work with her a little bit. They were like 22, 23. And they had both been there longer. But the two lesbian bosses didn't like these two girls. And they didn't like each other. And they liked me. So, and I just do well in these kind of circumstances. Like, people are always trying to promote me against my better judgment or whatever it is. Like, I've been offered jobs I don't deserve. Like, I just do well in those kind of like interviews or whatever it is. And so I had a car that blew up. I went to play basketball after group meditation, and the thing was always burning oil. And I had added some oil, and I don't know what happened if some of it had spilled. But I was playing basketball, and my car just caught fire. Like, I'm grabbing shit out of there. Some guy's yelling, "The car's gonna blow! You gotta get out!" I'm like, it's not gonna blow up. Like, it was an old Audi, and so I had to buy a car on payments, and I wasn't making enough money to do that. So I needed extra money, but that's the only reason I wanted the supervisor position. I really didn't want to. It was a lot more stress and work for not that much more pay, and I'd only been there a little bit. And I went into the interview and I evaluated my situation, and I realized that the girl that I was working with that worked my end of the week, she was certainly going to quit if I got hired over her. Because actually, the woman who left, I forgot about this other guy. This woman who left, they hired a guy from a unit with the younger kids, and he was a disaster. Like, he really was popular with the younger kids. And he was kind of had a fiery personality, and he got into it with the toughest kid, and the whole place was a fucking mess. He was difficult to work with, and he ended up quitting. And this girl already got passed over by somebody from another unit, and so she was already feeling like, there was no future for her. So I realized that if I got the job, she was going to quit, and she was, they were longer, had more experience, and the kids there are nightmares. Like, they test you, and people quit all the time because these kids are so difficult. It's like they're all like, it's like 15 home alone kids testing you all the time and trying to, see if you're going to discipline them, see if you're going to, what kind of person you are. They all have trust issues. They all have behavioral issues. And it takes a long time for you to sort of, where they'll follow your directions. So when you're new, you're basically worthless for like 2 months. And we already had two people that just got hired who weren't that good, or they were questionable, and they just started. So I'm like, so if I get this job, the one person with experience is going to quit, and I'm going to have 4 new people, and it's going to be a fucking nightmare, right? Like, it was going to be a disaster. So I didn't really want the job anyway. So I went to the girl I work with, and I said, her name was Joy. She wasn't a happy person. One of the many people I know that are named Joy, and they're not happy, right? And I said, I'm not going to take the job. I want you to get it, right? And so, or I recommended her to the bosses because they wanted me to stay, and I said I don't really want it, and why don't you give it to her? And they didn't want to give it to her, but they did. And because I did that, she was like eternally grateful to me. Like, she was psyched because she wanted the job, and like whatever it was. And, I had all these ideas that I was getting from my spiritual, the Sajmark meditation that I was doing. And I was able to implement some of those ideas. And she listened to me. And in many ways, I was like running the place the way I thought it should be run. Like, I had like a vision of how we could make the place better. And it worked all out fucking great. And she was doing all the shit I don't like to do, paperwork and all the fucking bullshit things that I would have sucked at. So, it worked out perfectly. And we ended up getting a kid that needed one-on-one, so we ended up getting 6 staff on our side of the week, on both sides of the week. And we had 3 guys and 3 girls, and it was just, we all gelled together. It was like a great time. Like, the unit ran really well, and I was able to, act like a supervisor without having all the responsibilities. There's a teaching in the Sajmark system that it's better to be friends with the king than be the king himself. Right? If you're the king's friend, you get all the things the king gets without all the stress, right? Or something like that. And so I really, saw that. And I was able to get another part-time job that made more money. I was making more money than I would have done at the supervisor thing with way less stress, and everything was like fine. It was great. It was like a kind of a golden time. Then the unit manager quit, the woman quit. There was, where the lesbian woman quit. And they brought in this other guy. This guy was this guy was crazy as fuck, and he was horrible. And we all quit. I moved to New Mexico from Massachusetts, and I started being a preceptor. I went to India. It was a whole thing, right? But towards the end, like I was popular amongst my fellow employees, and really was, it was a like I said, it was like a golden time. And somehow they found out it was my birthday because I didn't tell anybody, because I don't do that shit, right? I just not a big fan of my birthday. And they kind of had like a party there at work. Like the kids go to sleep at 10, and the night person comes in, and they had brought me some stuff, and we had played this, ultimate frisbee. And one of my things that I brought in there, and I was like, we had to restrain the kids, and it sucked. And the kids would act out, and some of the kids straight up told me that they were only getting restrained is because they would go in their room and they would have nightmares at night, because that's when they would get sexually abused by their parents or whatever it was, right? And their meds, they wait for their meds to kick in, and they get really hyper, and they felt like it helped them like sleep better if they got restrained, or it helped them calm down to get into some physical altercation. And that also reminded them of their abuse. And I said, like, this is fucking crazy. These kids just need, and we had, good athletes. Some of the women on the staff played sports, and the two other guys played sports, right? So we were all athletes. And so the kids couldn't play physical games where they had physical contact because they were little sex offenders. And so I thought of the game Frisbee football, which is, ultimate Frisbee. And I kind of only barely knew how to play. But we would play for like 3 hours every day, and we would run the shit out of those kids. Like, they would be exhausted. And you could throw a Frisbee a long way, and the kids would chase it, right? And all the kids, even the kids who were heavily medicated, some of them were like really uncoordinated, could catch a Frisbee. And you could take some time to give them a little, so they would get involved. And the kids would run, and they would all be exhausted. I had these other ideas, like, I said, we're like cool people, and, let's have barbecues out back, and let's do things like, we're big brothers to these, like, we're the cool big brothers. And we would, like, shame them when they would do weird shit. Because they would do weird shit, right? And we'd be like, fuck it, that's weird, bro. Like, there was a kid in there, and he was gone by the time I was there, but he was a really sexual kid, but never really talked about his abuse. He had licked a few of the staff. I mean, gross shit. And he would yell fart blast when he got restrained, and all these other kids started to copy him because they thought he was a cool kid. And he did a lot of immature, these kids were like, 14 years old, 13 years old. They were talking about like little kid shit, right? And we just extinguished the shit out of that stuff by saying, like, that's so uncool, like, like all these things, right? And it worked. Like, the kids just started to act like normal kids, like if you had a big brother and you were doing weird shit, and your big brother said, that's fucking weird, stop doing that. And you'd be like, all right. Nobody told me, right? There was a kid on there who'd never been on an escalator. We brought him to the mall. He was like, what the hell is that? Moving stairs. Like these kids were like, living in a fucking, like Deliverance or some shit like that. And so, we played this ultimate Frisbee, and we had one Frisbee we used so much that it cracked. And, it was just overused. And the staff all signed it. Like, they all signed the Frisbee, and it was like a moving thing, because I'm not a person that's easy to buy presents for or whatever. I don't like want things or whatever. If I need something, great, but like I don't, it's hard for me to think of stuff. And so, but I had this thing, I kept it for a while just for the sentimental. It was a broken Frisbee, but it had all these signatures on it. And it kind of commemorated the time there, right? And, had I not done that, what I did, I would have probably quit like 3 or 4 weeks later, because it would have just sucked so bad. And, had I not decided not to take the promotion, which most people would think would be a bad thing. You're supposed to get promoted. I did the same thing as a clinician years later after I got married, and, I went back and got my master's degree in counseling. I was working at another treatment center. These were teenage sex offenders that were, from like 14 to 21, and many of them were convicted. I mean, it was more severe. It was a worse place to work at, like poorly organized. And I had the opportunity to do this job. I just didn't feel it to be a supervisor, and I didn't take the job. And I talked to the woman. She came in after me, and I could have had the job because my boss liked me and wanted to give it to me. But I was like, no thanks. And then I heard when she listed all the things I was supposed to do, I'm like, yeah, that's all the stuff I suck at, right? So I decided not to take it, and I was so grateful I did. The woman who took it was so stressed out. She told me how bad everything was and how crazy it was, and I'm like, yeah, I'm glad I fucking didn't take it, right? So there are things that most people would say it was good, right? You get a promotion, you can move your way up into something, but it's not always the case. Like you think something, you want something, you think something's good for you, but it's really not. I think about that quite a bit when my channel, I like staying under the radar, and it'd be great if I had 1 million subscribers. I was on my way up when I was getting 100 subscribers a day before YouTube changed their algorithms. They started censoring people and doing all the shadow banning. And, that sucks. And, I've had to battle with all the bullshit with YouTube. But, like growth and success and things that people think of success and numbers, they don't mean anything, right? I mean, money would be great. And, getting a message out that more and more people should hear. I feel like I have unique things to say that I think everyone should hear, that they probably aren't going to hear somewhere else. And that, that's also a part of being willing to do God's work. But also, more doesn't always mean better, right? More people, more whatever it might be. I mean, it's difficult just in terms of keeping up with all the comments and the other things. So, whenever things are happening, if I get bummed out, and I mean, YouTube was just slowly crushing my channel, and there's been a bounce back. Now we'll see how that plays out. But I got a little bump from the Charlie Kirk thing. The channel did. So, that's been great or whatever. That's, something I haven't had in a while. I used to have videos that would pop that would get hundreds of thousands of views, and that was something different. People want something. Most people who win the lottery, get depressed and are miserable. Why is that, right? I mean, think about that. You think winning the lottery would be a good thing. The majority of people, you can do the research on the thing, they end up being, dissatisfied and miserable. You look at all these celebrities and all these people, successful politicians, successful business people. I mean, they become ghoulish and fucking, vampirish, and just they turn into monsters and horrible people. Some of them were considered great people, likable. When they are on their way up and they're being successful, everything was great, but then they reached a certain level and they turn into horrible people and they're miserable. And so, you don't know what's good or bad, right? Everything should be, in the sense, when something happens, yeah, of course there's the shock of something happening, and yeah, I don't really want that to happen, and no one likes change. But assessing something when it happens immediately, when you're kind of having an emotional reaction to it and you don't really know how it's going to play out, it's the wrong way to go about it, because you don't know. And you might not know till after you die. You might not value something, until your life is complete. And it could be years from now, you're like, oh, wow, that's actually a good thing, right? I thought that was a bad thing my whole, for years and years, and now I'm like, oh, that's a fucking great thing. Just wanted to throw that out there. Okay, so this is the Rick Rubin report. Is his name Rick? I think this guy is one of those right-wing truther. Not totally sure who he is. But I've heard his name, and I think I've seen his picture before. But YouTube recommended this to me. Charlie Kirk conspiracy grifters exposed and fracturing on the right. The top comment here, let me see if it's still there. Not only are these grifters blaming everything on Israel, but they turn a blind eye to everything that Islamism is doing. So there's that stuff. But I believe this guy must be taking a lot of shekels. This guy seems like a shekel taker, right? We'll see. Let's watch a little of the video here. Okay, so to use the word grifters in the title, he doesn't in the video because I searched the transcript. But to use the word grifter in the title, to say people who don't believe in the official story are conspiracy grifters. So the most you could be grifting for is some views right? Some more popularity, and maybe a little merch, right? A little more ad money, right? Just, whatever. The kind of grift that Erika Kirk and the TPSU people are doing and Trump are doing, I mean, those are like fucking grifters, right? Israel's a grifter. Like, we're talking about, billions as opposed to even trillions as opposed to, thousands of dollars. So to say people who believe in the official story are saying they don't, and they're making videos up and making shit up to pretend that something happened when it didn't, when clearly this official story sucks. And to be like someone who's claiming to be a truther.
Personalities, and obviously losing Charlie, and just all the stuff that we're all kind of going through, just like you and I, we go through this stuff real time on camera. It's kind of nuts.
Yeah, Dave, it's perplexing to me. I think I'm starting to lose my mind at how crazy all of this stuff is going.
The
Conspiracies are
the conspiracies. I mean, it's like that's the part that's making me lose my mind. Not fucking martial law from Trump, not the bazillions of dollars were given to Israel as they committed genocide. The part that makes me lose my mind is when there's these conspiracies about how the government is lying about the official story. That's fucking, I mean, I don't know if I can take it, right?
of control. The lack of support, love, and commitment, or I would say integrity, as it relates to Charlie Kirk, his family, and TPUSA. The stuff.
Yeah, because they rolled out this grift. I mean, that was the real grift. Even if the official story is true, let's say everything happened the way that they say it, that Tyler, whatever the fuck his name is, killed Charlie Kirk, and there's nothing else to see here. They rolled out this big fucking giant gaudy memorial service. Erika Kirk was up there 2 days after he's dead, fake crying, acting badly. I mean, that stuff we know, right? Like, everyone can fucking see that. And they market this shit out of this, and they're hammering the fucking merch, right? I just covered the merch yesterday and other days. They're merching out, and the fucking videos are so... I mean, people who are like Charlie Kirk fans and a part of TPUSA are like, holy fuck, this is really bad. And then there's the evidence showing that there's lots of problems with the official story on top of it. And so, like, this is your take? Like, what are you guys getting? Like, how much shekels are you getting? Right? I mean, you guys should say sheckled. You should change the name of this channel to I Got Sheckled, right? I mean, how many shekels does it take to come out with this kind of bullshit?
Being said is so inappropriate and so nonsensical to me.
Nonsensical. It's just fucking nonsense. It doesn't make any sense at all.
Out of just respect for Charlie's life and legacy, I don't understand why people are coming up with these conspiracies.
I don't know why they're just making this shit up. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. They've never been lied to before by the government or by a Christian organization or by political organization or by Trump or by the media, and people don't even lie. I mean, I don't even know why. Why are they doing this? Like, it makes it sound like people are actually liars and they actually conspire. I mean, they made up this word conspiracy. It didn't exist before Charlie Kirk. There was no conspiracies before that, so I don't know why anybody would believe in such a thing. Because people don't conspire. I don't know why. It's crazy.
They're coming after Erika. They're coming after...
I don't know why. Like, she seems so fucking authentic, and her big smiles and her laughs and saying she's excited and giggling and then dabbing her eyes with the toilet paper, fucking her handkerchief, pretending she's crying, and all these sad faces and all the shit that she does. It's really badly acted and really inappropriate because she could just be home at grieving, and all the fucking weird shit she says. I don't understand why they come after her. I don't understand it.
Point USA, it's just mind-boggling to me.
It's mind-boggling. It's fucking mind-boggling.
And
it boggles the mind. I mean, my mind is completely boggled right now. I don't even know how I can talk with all this boggling going up in my brain right now. It's so fucking boggling.
Ever experienced anything like this and I haven't been doing this probably as long as you, Dave, but
Dave Rubin. What did I say, Bob?
The last 6 years or 7 years of me doing content online, I've never seen anything so crazy. Also, my support of Israel, I'm a Zionist.
There it is. There it fucking is, right? So now it comes down to Israel. You don't give a shit about Monica, Erika Kirk, and Charlie Kirk. What about how Israel was turning on Charlie Kirk right before he died? But it's about Israel because Israel's being implicated and you're a Zionist. You're a Zionist. That's what this is about, right? You're not. Your mind isn't boggled. You're getting shekels. Like, just, admit, like, have a tattoo right across your forehead that says, "I got sheckled." So we know when you're talking, say how much money you're receiving from Zionist propaganda, because that's what this is about, right? It isn't about these grifters. Like, Netanyahu isn't a grifter. Israel isn't, like, the greatest grifter of all time is Israel. They've convinced the American government and to some extent the American people to give them, probably over the course of so many years, $1 trillion of support and military aid. $1 trillion to a small little country. And they use that money to bribe and undermine and gaslight and do all kinds of things to the American people. I mean, that's a fucking grift, right? Those are the king grifters.
People have their own opinions. You don't have to be a Zionist. You don't have to like Benjamin Netanyahu. I would
Yeah, we don't. We fucking don't want. I don't know. Most of us who are in the truth community, anybody who's in the truth community that's actually truther, is not a Zionist. You can't be a Zionist truther, right? Because they believe in this bullshit idea that the land is promised, that there's promised land, right? And so, this is, I don't know how much of this I can use, so I'll stop here. But we get the idea. Okay, so this isn't about grifting and gaslighting and boggling the mind. This is about you getting paid off by Israel to sell out your country and sell out your viewers to a foreign country. And so that boggles the mind, but it really doesn't, because people are pieces of shit and do shit like this all the time. People fucking sell shit out. All people, for money will do all kinds of horrible shit and then pretend that they're doing it, like they're taking the higher moral path, right? Okay, so I searched here for the word Israel in the transcript. So it starts up here. Charlie Kirk's legacy, resting calls for revenge and backlash. He faces both from the left and some of the right. His passionate defense of Israel. His viral debate with Dave Smith and Piers Morgan uncensored. Boom. Israel here. Boom. Israel. This right in the fucking key words. Israel, right? Boom. Comment there. Boom. Comment there. Israel there. Boom. Israel there. And then in the transcript. They are endlessly obsessed with Israel. That was said. Israel and Zionists, we heard that. Israel there, Israel there, Israel, Israel. So the Israel in the transcript itself is about, I would say, 18 times. Create terrorism against Israel, 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 Israel. So I think you guys might be accepting shekels, right? Endlessly obsessed with Israel. They said that a couple times. They ripped every Jew out of Gaza, the Israelis, in honor of you, in honor, an effort to get peace. They did all that. All that stuff. Israel Boulevard, Donald Trump's actions to everything is Israel's fault, and that's not normal. So here, let's just listen to that part.
Donald Trump's actions to everything is Israel's fault, and that's not normal.
Wait, Donald Trump said that, right? Here, let's go back here.
Israel Boulevard. I mean, from Charlie's death to the cost of goods to Donald Trump's actions to everything is Israel's fault. And
It's not normal.
And that's not normal.
It's not normal to think like that. You're not normal. You're crazy to think like that. You're abnormal if you think Charlie Kirk's death and everything that happened in Gaza and whatever Donald Trump is doing and Jeffrey Epstein and all that stuff. If you think all that stuff and you think it's Israel's fault, you're abnormal. Just stop being abnormal. That's all I'm saying. Don't be abnormal. I mean, it's not everything's Israel's fault. I mean, like some of it's got to be somebody else's fault, right? Like, come on, guys, come on. Like, it boggles the mind. And but then they have people who say now he's bought and paid for by Israel. Now he's a warmonger. Now he's evil about Donald Trump. Yeah, they're saying that, right? And so, and again, this goes on to this whole clip. This clip is 42 minutes long, and there is about 18 references to Israel.
Mainstream people saying stuff that they've never said online in a racial manner because they hate Israel so much. So,
boom, exactly. Now, you're a Zionist. Your mind is boggled. Like you don't understand this. I mean, your mind is boggled by the amount of shekels you've been taking, bro. How many shekels did you take? Like, just have a shekel count. Like, just how much shekels have you gotten? That's all we need to know. Just all I have to say is, I've taken this many shekels. Okay, just a little bit to add. Still Sunday, October 5th, and then tomorrow I'll cover more of this stuff here. But, it's out there that Israel's paying shekels. So I made a video over 2 years ago, a year ago. I can look up the date here. Okay, so I must not have put shekels in the title. But I made a video called Where's My Shekels, or No Shekels for Paulie, or maybe 2 videos, I don't know. But it was a while ago, because people in the truth community were reporting that they were getting offers, as were other influencers, to promote Israel. So it's out there. Everyone knows that that's happening. And, it's been talked about in various places, I'm sure all over the truth community, and people know about it. Like, people know that you can get shekels for pushing this Israel agenda. And anybody talking positively about Israel, especially now, is getting shekels, right? They're getting paid heavily because the public opinion on Israel is turning, and who knows why that is. Maybe it's intentional. It's probably intentional. Maybe they want to blame Israel for everything that's about to happen. Who knows what's going on there? Who knows how it's going to play out? It's going to be probably an ugly divorce. You're divorcing yourself from a parasite site. Getting rid of parasites is difficult. And so there's going to be all of that. But when you come out like these guys are, and you just push stuff that doesn't make any sense at all, because there's plenty of evidence that this, not just the evidence, just the way it looks, that this Charlie Kirk thing, I mean, there's 3 levels of it. So there's the shooting itself, where we know there's a history of bullshit when it comes to that, right? Just the official story is, usually there's some kind of an agenda. There's always an agenda when there's any kind of tragedy that's covered, so-called tragedy that's covered. Because there's plenty of tragedies that nobody ever talks about. But the ones that they talk about, there's always an agenda, grabbing guns and any number of other things, right? There was an agenda first day with the day one, and there's all the weirdness behind this silly idea of an individual shooter, which is always the least believable option. The way they've closed down the case, so many details that make it suspicious, right? People do conspire. That's why there's a word for it. And so that's part 1. Number 2, Charlie Kirk was not the saint that they claimed he was. He was a weird guy. He was getting his shekels. I mean, he was an Israeli taint liquor, right? There's some things that, evidence about weird people, weird shit happening around the crime scene, a lot of things like that, to go with the last thing. And then his wife comes out, and she's fucked up, right? She's really messed up. So there's that. So there's those things. So you have all that kind of stuff. And then you have the people that are supposed to love this guy that don't see any of the flaws, the historical flaws. And the people who were supporters of Charlie Kirk are always going to side on the side of conspiracy theory, right? There are people who don't believe in the official story. Charlie Kirk was basically saying all the time that these guys are, devils or whatever they are. They're not Christian, good people, deep state stuff, right? These people believe in the deep state. These are Cubies, and they're really stupid people. And so, of course they're going to go along with these theories. And so by just accepting something that's so obviously flawed, and the fact that Charlie Kirk was seen, there's video of him with whatever Kelly, whatever her name is, Megyn Kelly, and then the reports from Candace Owens and these things that were said about with Tucker Carlson, that he was pissed about Israel and them calling Israel turning on him. Like right before this happened, Israel had turned on him. Their supporters, they're calling him anti-Semitic. I mean, they were just getting into his character, and he was upset by that, according to these people. So that's all out there, right? And so to come in and pretend that that didn't happen, and that everyone who's questioning the official story is somehow crazy, right? When you're clearly shekeling up, bro, right? Like, if you're talking about this in this way, you're getting fucking paid by Israel, or you're an operative. Because, Israel's they've committed a genocide. It's horrific what they've done. And you know, this thing, people are like, one of my commenters said, you know, that at least this ceasefire came at some point. Yeah, this thing ain't over, right? They're still going to grab that land, or they're going to try to. And so, you know, I mean, it's an abomination. It's you know, horrific. And you're sheckling up. You're getting your shekels. Like, it's just, everyone knows it. Like, no one's like, oh, I don't think that guy's getting his shekels. He's getting his shekels. Anyways, okay, I was going to stop there, but then I did the editing. I forgot the title of this thing, the original video. Let me pull it up here. And so it says, Charlie Kirk conspiracy grifters exposed, fracturing on the right. And so, if you don't understand this, because this involves all the stuff with Trump and fucking, the first, Trump is a mess. And he's turning on a right wing patriotic, and I'm not a patriot, I'm not right wing, but there's, you know, his people are. He's turning on all those people. Martial law is a fucking mess, nightmare. It's like one of the, it's sacrilege to the so-called patriots, and they're, you know, some of them are getting upset. He clearly had a relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. They were just releasing that fucking that birthday book with the weird message from him, and this thing ended up being a distraction for that. Like, that's not being talked about, and it should be. But the fracturing on the right's coming from Trump being a complete embarrassment, and then this thing looking fake as fuck, right? And so to call people grifters, like, you know, I mean, I think a lot of these people are going to lose all audience because people aren't going to sit around and have you tell them that they're full of shit and they're grifters and they're crazy. And, you know, my mind is boggled because of it's mind boggling that you guys would believe this stuff. It's not, you know, hard to believe at all. The official story is hard to believe. And, you know, if you're a fake news person, as Trump was, and, you know, all these people are talking about these mainstream narratives, and the ship has sailed in Israel. You can't put that battle back in the box. They've lost the youth. And it's just going to get worse. And that's something that Charlie Kirk was saying, right? Himself. And, you know, people have heard all these other arguments. And so if you come out and you just shill like this, you're obviously shackled up. I mean, you know, and then you're going to call people grifters. You're receiving money to fucking lie about a foreign country and their genocide. Like, you're a fucked up, you know, this is fucked up stuff you're doing. It's grotesque, right? It's fucking grotesque. Anyways, let's get into the other stuff. So somebody on Facebook posted this. Charlie Kirk had no coroner's report, no church funeral, no burial site or grave, no official death certificate, no ballistic reports, not yet a single eyewitness on the record, and an Academy Award widow already taking over his show. Not really, because she hasn't taken over his show. They have some other guy who absolutely sucks right now, who was his media person, and he is really bad. Like, the show is really horrible, which I've documented here. And then they have a couple of gay dudes that show up that may or may not be. It seems like maybe they're all a little bit gay, or like they're gayish, or, you know, they're not like patriot, like, you know, tough guy. They're more sort of metrosexual kind of people. I don't know if this is true. You know what? I can just put this all into Gemini. ChatGPT sucks, and I'll get into that in a bit too, because there's some thing that it was sent to me. But here, okay. So I put these things in ChatGPT, and they did their Google search, which is, you know, not ChatGPT, Gemini. The statements you are making reflect many of the circulating claims and conspiracy theories regarding the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Here is a summary of the information from news reports that contradicts or addresses the points in your statement. Coroner's report / autopsy. A mortician who discussed the case publicly stated that a medical examiner investigator privately confirmed an autopsy was performed. In homicide cases, families generally do not have the legal right to refuse an autopsy. I'm not sure if that means there's an autopsy. So, does anybody see the report? Church funeral. Charlie Kirk's public memorial service was described as a funeral celebration of life was held at State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona on Sunday, September 21st, 2025. It features speeches from high-profile political figures and was live streamed. While it was not a traditional religious service held inside a church, it served as the widely reported in public funeral event. Burial site. News reports indicate Charlie Kirk was to be laid to rest in Phoenix, Arizona, which described as his adoptive home town. Official death certificate. As a matter of public record, a death certificate would have been issued by the state of Utah following a confirmation of death, especially one resulting from a high-profile homicide. Obituaries were published by funeral homes. Ballistics report. As part of the murder investigation and subsequent criminal trial for aggravated murder, a ballistic report would be a standard part of the prosecutor's evidence. The suspect, Holly Robinson, was arrested and charged with aggravated murder, suggesting the investigators have been building a case which would include forensic evidence. Well, that's just, you're supposed to be like fucking debunking this. You can't say would. It would be, should be there. I don't know. I mean, it should be there, so it's got to be there, right? Like, this is like fucking sheeple stuff. You're supposed to be like a fucking computer, right? Like, either is or isn't. Eyewitnesses on record, multiple media sources reported on witnesses, including Emma Pitts, a desert news reporter who was presented and told NPR that she saw so much blood come out of the left side of Charlie's neck and that he went very limp. The event has a public rally with hundreds of attendees, many of whom were recording cell phones, relating graphic footage, images. Okay. It is true that circumstances surrounding the death, particularly the highly public and pro-political nature of the event, which have led to various conspiracy theories and claims such as these, suggesting Tyler Robinson was framed or that certain details of investigation are being withheld. Theories often question the lack of public release of official documents like an autopsy or death certificate, which are typically part of the law enforcement investigation, are not always immediately released to the public. So, yeah, so they don't have a lot of those things yet, and whatever. And they could release them. It doesn't matter. They'll release official reports, and the guy could be not even, the guy could have been a hologram all along, like not even a real person, as far as like most of us would know or not know. But with all these things, it's weird, right? I checked Erika Kirk's Instagram, and she's still at 665. I'm waiting for her to have to go to 666. She's going to have to post something. And, she's going to probably post two things. But one of those things is going to be the 666 post. She might post a couple things back to back to try to jump to the next post. But, there'll be one of them that's the 666 post. Not that I give a shit about the number stuff. I think it's funny, though, that she's in that predicament. Okay, so I went back to Gemini. ChatGPT is dead to me. Because, I use that on my phone, though, so I should say that because it's there. Okay, so this is not from me. I am fact-checking these accusations. So yes or no, is there a death certificate? Yes or no, is there a Charlie Kirk gravesite? Other than obscene political rally, was there a church funeral for the family? Yes or no, was there a ballistics report? Okay, so here is the direct fact check of specific claims you're asking about based on public reports regarding the assassination. They're using this term, which, is this assassination or a murder, right? Just like was the war in Gaza, or was it a slaughter? And so, it's the words used by this computer. Is there a death certificate? Yes. Implied. Fucking implied? Implied. Yes, implied. No, yes or no. The answer is no. The death was officially announced by the hospital where he was pronounced dead by public officials. In the United States, a death certificate is legally mandatory for any death, especially a homicide. To formally conclude the medical legal process, official obituaries were also published by the funeral homes. No, it's not. It's not. I see the death certificate. So first of all, just like This has been the most public death, the most gaudy public fucking death that we've ever seen, right? Like, I've never seen anything like this in my life. Where, days after the death, the wife's out there making fucking strategizing and doing all the bullshit she was doing, right? So, like, it's fucking, it's not like this is some private, let the family mourn in private, like this kind of thing. This is like this is like what they did with the fucking Queen, like this a procession, parade, and all this stuff. Constantly talking about his death, using his death for this and that, right? Like, it was just obscene, this stuff. And so it isn't like anything should be hidden. It isn't like Erika Kirk is holding something back, at least in terms of what she wants to use the death for. So, yes, implied. Is there a Charlie Kirk gravesite? Yes, anticipated. News reports indicate Charlie Kirk could be laid in the Phoenix, Arizona, his adoptive hometown. It's been 21 fucking days. Like, he's a skeleton by now. Like, where's his body right fucking now then? Where's his body? Like, there's no fucking, they didn't put this motherfucker in the ground yet, right? So today is October 6th. And so he was killed on the 10th of September. So there was 20 days. It's been 29 fucking days, right? I like how I did the math thing. It's been 29 days, bro. It's been a whole fucking month, and the guy isn't in the fucking ground yet. News reports indicate Kirk would be laying in the rest of Phoenix, Arizona, his adoptive hometown. The specific mark, location, or public availability of the grave is not always immediately announced after burial, but the burial itself was reported. Well, why wouldn't they have a public grave site? Because they're going to have all these mourners and people, all the Charlie Kirk people, coming. I mean, they should have a separate place for him, not in some random graveyard. They should have some separate, like, place where people would go and mourn him, right? Like, he was such a fucking saint. So did he rise from the dead? Was there a church funeral for the family? No, based on public event. So that State Farm Stadium bullshit thing was it. That gaudy fucking thing with Trump and the sparklers, that was his funeral. That was his fucking funeral, right? Was there a ballistics report? Yes, implied. While the full official ballistics reports has not been publicly released by the investigators, the fact that the suspect has been arrested and charged with aggravated murder means forensic evidence. Well, no, that it could be just all this stuff they could easily fake. They could just pretend that he was buried in a grave. Like, they could just pretend all these things. They could have a grave site. They could have had a separate funeral. They could have done all that stuff. They could have done all these things could have been done. You can fake a death certificate. You can do all that shit. It's just documents. It's not anything, I mean, as long as you're going to do that, you might as well fake everything unless there's, you're worried about the legality of the thing. But, they're going to rush this guy through the judicial process and convict him and execute him or whatever the fuck they're going to do. He doesn't, whatever it is. Expert sheets. The YouTube video below is the planning of the public details surrounding the primary funeral event. Right? So watch this. You can learn about the public service of the video. Charlie Kirk funeral service plans released. This video from the search results is relevant because it discusses the public service plans, which address the question of the funeral event. Boom. It's this fucking thing. It's this thing, right? That's what you're going on. These AI things are just not. I mean, I was very impressed in the beginning, and they still do some great work, better than a search engine. I mean, I guess that is better than a search engine because I would have done that myself. So, but it's like a bullshitter. Like it's just reciting a bunch of official story bullshit, right? Because none of these answers, you can't say implied. No, that's a no then. Right now, there's not a death certificate. It's 30 days out. It's implied. Because all the other things that would involve a death, this would have to be, right? That's what it's saying. The death was officially announced in the hospital, so there has to be a death certificate, right? Well, no. They could officially announce something and be lying. Yes, anticipated. The guy's, Fucking his body's walking around. What's this, Weekend at Bernie's or parading his body around? Like, is there still like a fucking, is it sitting in Erica Kirk's living room under glass? Like, what the fuck, right? And you say, it said, news reports indicated that it would be laid to rest. Well, what are they fucking waiting for? So, I mean, what the fuck, right? Based on a public event, no, based on, but yes, implied. Again, if we don't see it, it doesn't exist. And they could fake it. They don't have to not fake it, right? And then to put this in, like this was something relevant, like this had something. And so, that was 3 days after his death. So that's like 26 days ago, right? 20 and a half, 20, 25 and a half, 26 days ago, whatever it was, right? When she came out and did this horrific thing here. That was just so bad. You should know by now that they feed the conspiracies. There's always, whenever they do these things, they put out information to feed the conspiracy. Sometimes they put out information and they retract it later and pretend they never put it out. Like they make it sound like, I made it up or some other person made it up or whatever it is. Like we didn't see what we saw. And the news reports disappear unless, if it's got clipped in like a video, then yeah, that's there. But the news reports are, I don't know if you can hear the guineas outside. We have a neighbors cutting their lawn and there's a guinea, whatever it is. We have these guinea fowl and they just go nuts. We have only 2 of them. I mean, it'd be crazy if we had more. They're loud as anything. But they feed the conspiracy theories now. And so there's never anything clean anymore. And they just leave enough out there because they obviously want that. But it's dogs are barking. The guineas go and the dogs go anyhow. It's an absolute fucking mess, this thing, right? And they probably want it to be that way. And they just flood it with disinformation, lots of different theories. Like that's just how they deal with these things now. They throw out all this stuff so that there's, like, is it a hologram or not? Is it, is the guy dead or not? So, and then people start fighting over details and everyone has their own theories and like this kind of thing. But this is a fucking mess and whatever happened here. I mean, if he was not a real person, he's an actor. If the character, this is what we know for sure. This is what I want to say last time. The character of Charlie Kirk is certainly dead. But is, is the actor, right? That should be the title of this video. The character of Charlie Kirk is certainly dead, but is the actor dead, right? Is the actor who plays him, this person, if, that's an actor, if this wasn't a real person, I don't know. Like, we don't know. No one really knows. I mean, some people know, but not us, right? And so the majority of people don't know. Like, this guy emerged. He skyrocketed to fame, and now his fucking show's a mess. Let me go show you this thing. It shows an absolutely disaster. So this is called Thought Crime, episode 99. And look, so now I remember this guy, because he was put in as an official White House reporter, right? So the White House was bringing in shills, and she was introduced by the fake, Erika Kirk has stolen the thunder from the fake Christian Barbie truther. I don't even remember her name anymore. Don't tell me, don't care, I don't need to know. It would be there. Is it Caitlin? Whatever her name is. The White House, the press secretary. Carolyn Levitt. She introduced this guy, and I'm like, and I looked him up, and I'm like, oh, this guy's a complete piece of shit, right? Just stupid. But the guy's not funny. Like, this isn't funny. But he's still wearing his fucking beanie hat, his pretentious indoor beanie hat, like they're in near Arizona or where the fuck they film this thing. I mean, they have AC on, but he's got a pretentious beanie hat, like he's one of those, whatever they call those, liberal, like, I'll think of that later too. But this, then he's got this hat on. It's this whole mocking, Trump's mocking of this, whatever that guy's name is. You know who I'm talking about, Chuck Schumer and his pal. That was just silly. It was not, like, it wasn't funny. It wasn't a good job. It wasn't presidential, which I used to love, but now It's just not funny anymore. And so it wasn't good mocking. And this is supposed to be a show about God, right? And he was supposed to be somebody, a uniter. Like they pretended Charlie Kirk was a uniter. But he was just winning debates against these college kids, right? And so hipsters. So it kind of rolls around and comes back. So he wears this stuff like he's a hipster, but he's like some kind of right wing hipster. He wears this hat indoors, and he's like uninteresting, low energy.
And a way to change the world. May not agree with you, but we're fighting for the same cause. So let
And none of these guys have testosterone. I don't know if they're gay or not, but they're like a testosterone. They're a testosterone-less group of people. They're like low testosterone. They're low T.
do it. What they're not telling you, those guys over there work for us.
I'm telling you. That's not. I'm like I'm the right wing Brian Stelza. I'm the right wing Brian Stelza.
They're telling you, you don't have to feel bad about the violence they commit. They're a different group. They're not. That's the game.
Maybe you guys know this, but did the FBI?
Oh, they're all wearing sombrero hats. At some point, they busted out sombrero hats here. They came in with sombrero hats, and he didn't want to take his hat off, so he's double hatted. These guys, these low T guys here, right?
cut their ties with the SPLC because
Well,
they've been working with them for an extremely
yet.
long time. And if there ever was a time and opportunity to cut ties with the SPLC, it is now. But I want to go further because I know
that is one of the
Your show sucks, right? So I can evaluate content based on content I don't like, but I understand why other people do, right? I can see that they're pandering to a different audience. And the skill involved in that, like I talked about Rush Limbaugh a long time ago. It's so hard for me to listen to. I mean, I didn't really listen to him. But somehow he was on in the car. And, back when we used to listen to the radio, people did. And, he said, there's a reason why, the Republicans are losing because there's a foolproof way that they can win. But they're not doing what they need to do. And he said, he built it up and they said, I'll tell you after the break. And I realized he did a great job of cliffhanging the thing so that you would come back after the commercial break. And the reason was that if you run on a conservative agenda, you always win. And I've remembered that, even though it sucks and he's wrong, like he was, I mean, that was, maybe back then that was true. I don't know. It's hard to say. I didn't know much about politics, but I saw how he was able to keep his audience engaged, right? And so, people made fun of Clint Eastwood when he went to the RNC and had Obama in a chair, like an empty chair, and he was talking to the empty chair, right? And Clint Eastwood has kind of a low energy, very soft spoken. And the Democrats mocked it, but I was like, this one Democrat said, yeah, but the right-wing people ate it up, right? Sarah Palin, might have been the Sarah Palin convention. And Sarah Palin, when she got that thing where she said, what's the difference between a hockey mom and a pit bull? And she said lipstick, and it was like, great, the right-wing people, like the right-wing dumb fucks were all over it. But, you can see where something sucks for you, but might not suck for other people. And then there's just stuff that sucks, right? Where, like, this sucks. Like, this just out now sucks. Now, some of the things they say people might agree with, but their presentation sucks. It's disorganized. It's not, it's just not there. Like, they're getting no fucking views, right? And so whatever Charlie was able to do, he was able to do better for his audience, right? You're competing against other people in this space, and this show's going to, it only has the name brand. And just because you knew Charlie Kirk doesn't mean that you were married to Charlie Kirk doesn't mean that you're able to carry an audience, right? Now, I've said this before. This happened with this fucking this clown Dodgy who took over for Sajmark and turned it into this cult-like thing called Heartfulness. He's such a bad public speaker, and he was much better at one point. He gave some good talks, but his video clips are just bad. And they made really bad content. And, I said back then, some of us had to win an audience. He inherited one. Like, there were all these people that were part of the Sajmark meditation, and he inherited all that goodwill that had been built up by the other masters of the system. All the work they did to reach out to people, all the the great content that they provided. But, when he took over, he just absolutely sucked. Like, he just wasn't good. He couldn't win an audience on his own, right? And there are people like that. And Erika Kirk might be able to win some small audience. Maybe she gets some street cred for being former Miss, Miss whatever it is, fucking Arizona or whatever. Those things that she has. And now Charlie Kirk's widow, of course. But she wouldn't be that popular. Like, if she had her own little podcast, she might have a few people on there. These guys probably have almost nobody. If this was just a regular podcast, now Tim Pool has created his own audience, so I don't even know how that happened, but he has it. But, he's the guest. He's the guest here. These other three morons, like the Three Stooges over there, they could not win their own audience. It would be like just one of those things that would get like 100 views, right? And so they're being put out there to take over for this guy, and they're just going to hemorrhage their audience because, other than the subject matter, which people agree with, their presentation sucks, right? I said this about Jen Psaki. It's people who are made celebrities on the internet. They come in with an audience because of their past celebrity. But when you hear them, when they have to talk about their own thoughts, when they're not reading other people's scripts, and they're, and they don't have a team of people making their video content, you're like, oh my God, this person's horrible. When they have to do a podcast, like everyone's got a podcast now. And some people just shouldn't be doing it because they don't have interesting thoughts. They don't react well spontaneously, right? They're good in these other formats when they're, maybe they're good as an actor or famous person. But as a person analyzing what's going on in the world and having conversations or whatever the podcast is about, you have to say things that are interesting. You have to have good things inside of you that other people like hearing, and you have to present it in a way that they, that keeps them engaged. You have to be a good storyteller. You have to be funny. You have to say things that, people are like, oh, I want to hear more from this person, right? Like if you're in a conversation with people and, the person's like says a bunch of shit and you're like, I can't wait to get away from this motherfucker, which is a lot how I feel a lot of the time, because, and there are people who are just really engaging. They have a charisma about them. You want to spend time with them. There's people who universally are like that, right? At least, 80% of the people are like, oh, I really like that person. I like to hear from them. I like it when they're on the Tonight Show or something, right? But now, like, you have podcasts and these things, and there are people who just are not like, oh, they don't have anything. They don't have anything going for them. And this is what we have here. So flashback to my first video about Charlie Kirk, who I did not know at all and did not care about and did not think I would cover this. And I certainly didn't think I know as much as I do now. But that's all water under the bridge. The government is shut down, but the House refuses to get back into session. We are in recess because the day we go back into session, I have 218 votes for the discharge petition to force a vote on releasing the Epstein files. Speaker Johnson doesn't want to want that to be the news. So Thomas Massie is a Republican from Kentucky, and they always seem to have somebody from Kentucky or West Virginia that doesn't go along with the rest of the Republicans, which is always kind of great, especially in this circumstance. But what I said the first day was that we were on the cusp of Donald Trump being pretty embarrassed and humiliated by his association with Jeffrey Epstein, which is substantial. And, for the love of God, it's just so bad that the Trumpers, and I got someone accusing me of TDS comment that I'll get to probably in my next video. I already got some comment things that I'm going to, today's Monday, October 6th, is it? Yeah, 6th. And I started the video yesterday. I have most of it done. The part today that I started was with Erika Kirk and her Academy Award-winning thing, and the sketchy stuff about her husband's post-death treatment. But what I said back then is that Trump was the big winner of this thing, and he has been, because it erased all the Epstein momentum that was gathering, and now there's this by Thomas Massie, who says that that's, being blocked right now by the Speaker of the House. And, he also, I don't know if this is the same thing here. He also said, best thing about government shutdowns, no chemtrails. Now, I think that the chemtrail program is an off-book program. It might not even be something exclusive. It's not even exclusive to the United States, I think, right? People see the chemtrails in other countries. But we've had blue skies. We had a bunch of blue sky days, which I was surprised about. And then we had a couple of chemtrail days, and that were clearly just chemtrails, like nothing else. And we've had some cloudy days since then, but we've had a lot of blue skies and haven't had any. I think since the official shutdown, we have not had any chemtrails. So I'm not sure if that's, what that's all about. But, we'll see if it's an off-government program or not. These are the 22 states are now in a recession. It's all the states that are in red here. And most of those states are purple states or blue states. They're states that, all of that. But, the economy should have collapsed a while ago. And it just hasn't. Like when Trump and Biden both, they rolled out between the two of them $12 trillion in COVID bailouts. That there's no money for that, right? There was no money for $12 trillion in global bailouts. We know that Elon Musk said that our budget is $7 trillion. The income, which I always show people from the debt clock, the UN national debt clock. But the income is now up to $5 trillion, but before that was always $4 trillion in tax revenues. So that should be the budget. And there's these off-budget items like Social Security and Medicaid that aren't a part of the budget. So those are unfunded liabilities that I think are in the $220 trillion range. These are things that are promised and are, expenses that are not part of the budget. Of course, Social Security is bankrupt, all those things. But, in all that, they took out $12 trillion that really didn't matriculate into the debt. I mean, I guess they put it in with everything else. But he said that Elon Musk said that there was $7 trillion in budget every year. So it's $2 trillion over what we have to spend, right? Like if you were doing your personal finances, you would have all the money you make, and then you have the money you're spending. If the money you're spending is $2 trillion more every year, you're kind of fucked when you only have $5 trillion, right? And there's another $1 trillion of interest. So there's an $8 trillion debt every year that is, with a $5 trillion budget. And that's just the national debt. There's all the other debt, the credit card debt, there's all that other stuff. And it's just, a debt-based economy, you have to make it look like at some point you can catch up. You never catch up, but you can make it look like you catch up. The tariffs was a total joke. They don't even talk about the tariffs anymore. Tariffs have gone by the wayside. They were just a bad idea. Small tariffs sure would have been helpful, but it still isn't going to change the debt. Like small tariffs could, bring in some level of income and still have prices be reasonable. But the prices are going to hit at some point. And it's just, they've been fucking around with the gold and all that stuff to keep the prices down. But, inevitably the recessions, the depression is going to hit the hyperinflation. We're going to have to pay 2 or 3 times what we used to pay for everything. And we had some price hikes during Biden. Trump's been able to manipulate the markets to keep it down. But we'll see, what they're going to have to do. They'll probably go to the digital currency then, try to do some things. But eventually they're going to wipe out what they think you owe. Like your bank accounts will disappear and this kind of thing. All this wealth will just disappear, and that'll be like the end of the economy as we now know it. People won't have money to spend. People will be freaked out. The banks can just take your money. Then they've done this, right? MF Global, there's a guy, he ended up being a governor or senator of New Jersey. And then he was in charge of this MF Global. And they owed all this money to Goldman Sachs. And Jamie Dimon said, if you don't pay us the money, we're going to freaking kill you. Jamie Dimon was in charge of Goldman Sachs. Whatever that guy's name, had to pay him. And then they took the money out of user accounts. Like people who had money at the bank, they just took their money, right? It's not your money until you get it back, right? Anything like that, right? People who have bought in gold and like a stock, they don't have the physical gold. They have the idea that they have the gold or mining rights, things like this, and they have nothing, right? They find out you never get the gold, right? Like is this kind of stuff. So it's going to happen, and when it happens, the acknowledgement that we're fucked. Like we're waiting for the acknowledgement that we're fucked, whatever it is, food, energy, or money, right, or currency. One of those things, the three things will be like, we're fucked. And it's when that happens, you don't have like energy isn't like no longer enough energy to sustain whatever's going on. And then not food crises and or collapse of the economy, which will bring out the other two. And then once that happens, people realize, oh yeah, it's over, right? The way that we used to live life is over. We're never getting that back.
Is something that the House can look at, then we're not coming back. So I don't know, I have any idea when I might get sworn in, and the Speaker's office has not had any direct communication with me.
Let me ask you why you think there are some Democrats saying this has to do with the Epstein files. Are you hearing that? And what's your sense?
I am hearing that, and I am going to be the 218th signer.
Well, good for you. So I turn the TV on during breakfast. I usually watch sports or the news. I turned on the ESPN. There was nothing on. So I turned on the CNN, and this was happening. So this woman is being refused. She's won some special election, some blah, blah, blah. She's, I think, in Arizona. And she's a Democrat, and Mike Johnson or nobody will talk to her about getting sworn in. And so, this comes up on CNN. Massey said it. There's a legitimate reason it's a legitimate idea. Again, this is a conspiracy theory. Like, it's okay for them to do it. That they don't want the Epstein files released. And so who are they going to have to kill off, or what are they going to have to do to get it must be so bad if that's the case, right? And it seems like, well, we know that the stuff that was already coming out was really damaging for Trump. And Trump has taken a beating on Israel. He's taken a beating on all these things. Like, the people have lost faith in him. The martial law stuff. I mean, there's got to be right-wing people out there that are just, they realize they got punked by, they got grifted by Donald Trump. And so when the Epstein stuff comes out, Trump has less of a Teflon than he used to have. And I think it's bad enough to where, Trump won't recover, at least in terms of popularity or whatever it is, then going into the midterms. So they're kind of fucked. I don't know what their plan is. But if keeping the government shut down is somehow better than releasing the Epstein files, and the Epstein files are bad, right? And we know there's enough in there to cause some sort of suspicion against Trump. And I don't think the stuff's getting better because, the Epstein thing just doesn't die. And it'll come back around, like, just because, the Charlie Kirk thing is already worn out. People aren't even talking about this on regular media anymore. Like, that story's arc is already passed us by. And so the peace deal, whatever that is, when people look at what the Gaza Strip looks like, they're going to be like, holy shit. There's an unverified video that just shows it being totaled. Let's move on to that. But, this is, I think the Epstein stuff's going to be a big deal. So this is supposedly a drone, for an Israeli drone going over Palestine, unless it's somehow AI generated. It looks pretty fucking devastated, right? Now, like, holy shit, right? I can't verify if this is real or not. It may or may not be. But we know there's been epic devastation there. And there was a guy, a Jewish, an Israeli real estate developer saying, the first part of this is making sure that, the first stage, and Trump knows this, when you're doing, you're taking over a neighborhood and you have to destroy it, right? There's the demolition. and you take over like a neighborhood that all of a sudden the land has value. There's places like Brooklyn that used to be shitty, and then now it became very trendy, and they do real estate development, gentrification. They get the poor people and the old people out of the neighborhood, and then they build luxury condos or apartments or whatever. And the first part is destruction, right? So Gaza's set up for a rebuild, and the people that live there, Palestinian people, aren't going to be included in it, more than likely. And they've done this part. They destroyed everything, which is purposeful. And all that destruction was paid for by the American government and the military-industrial complex, as we gave them money and free bombs and shit like that, which they, dropped and destroyed this place so they can rebuild it and do what Trump wanted to do. Trump Gaza, right? That whole thing that he did with the Instagram post. So it's over there. Like, they can say all this stuff about the Palestine. Well, there's things coming up here about that. So here is ChatGTP, and here is the Israeli flag. And so they take this thing out, the symbol, and they invert it and flip it over, and you get this. I guess that happened, but I don't know. It looked like it worked out right away, right? Like, is that how it worked? So you have, it's inverted. This thing's inverted. And you flip it over. Boom. So it goes that way. And you bring it over and kaboom. Yep. It looked like it worked out that way. I don't know. Could be some illusionary thing going on, but ChatGTP. Okay, so I duplicated this experiment in Photoshop. And since my Photoshop skills suck, and I barely ever use it anymore, it took me a while. But yes, that does. When you do when you do vertically rotate the whatever it is, the one of the layers, and you combine the two layers and make one transparent, it shows up as the Star of David. So this actually is a thing.
We don't need flexibility because everybody's pretty much agreed to it, but there'll always be some changes. But the Hamas plan, I tell you, it's amazing. You're going to have peace, if you think about it, peace in the Middle East for the first time in, they say, really, 3,000 years. So I'm very honored to be a big part of that.
Like, are you seriously celebrating what just fucking happened there? Like, you're celebrating what happened there? Are you shitting me? Right? Like that he would think that this is a positive thing. It should be you took a country that we have funded and given them the 21st, one of the top 20, the 21st best military in the world. A small ass country the size of New Jersey has one of the best militaries in the world, right? Top 21 military. And you took a country that has no military, that is completely controlled by the other country. You turn off all their resources. You turn off their internet, their electricity, their water, their food. And you bomb the shit out of them, and you kill hundreds of thousands of people, many of them kids. Destroy the infrastructure that's like, now it's just all rubble, toxic rubble. And then you have some fake terrorist organization that is the catalyst for the whole thing. And the victim consciousness verbalized by the leader of Israel. And you allow that to happen. And then after they've destroyed this fucking place, you make a deal, right? And you call this a peace plan, a peace in the Middle East? So you shit me?
President Trump speaking moments ago about a possible ceasefire. For more on this, let's bring in Kyron Skinner, Toby Chair Professor and Director for the Institute for Diplomacy, Security, and Innovation at Pepperdine University. She's also a Fox News contributor. Welcome.
Good to be with you.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio talking about the Middle East. Let's play him, and I'll get you to react to him.
I think ultimately everyone has agreed, including Israel, that eventually at some point here, as this process plays out, Gaza will be governed by a Palestinian technocratic group that's not Hamas, that are not terrorists, with the help and the assistance and the guidance of an international consortium like the Board of Peace. You have to have somebody to turn it over to. So, I mean, let's be realistic here. You can't just set up a sort of new governance structure inside of Gaza in 72 hours. It's going to take some time.
Yeah, there's no buildings left. It's a pile of rubble. And, like, you know, a third of the population's dead. I mean, just how they get the fucking bodies out. Like, there's, you know, like there's no you know, like, there's a small area, 20 miles by 20 miles square feet. I mean, just
to do it.
What is your sense at this critical stage?
The Secretary has it quite right. That's one of the big end goals here, to have a self-governing Gaza Strip. But there
If you had drugs, bro, Kyron Skinner.
Many, many steps along the way.
Like, are you being like, it's like you being just like your kids being held hostage or something? Yes, let me read this for you. My kids are at home being held hostage. I got to read this. You know, like.
Clip you played with President Trump when he said 3,000 years, this is the first big peace deal, but he was saying something really fundamental. Almost the entire globe is on the side of this 20-point plan. It's a big framework. There are parts of it that many disagree with.
You know, people want just something. They want a ceasefire. They want it to stop. That's, you know, it's not that they're on board with this. Like, it's, you know, like it was fucking demonic. And what was going on there is horrific. And, like, you finally stopped fucking killing people over there. You know, allegedly, right?
But just this past month, European nations were lining up to recognize a Palestinian state against Israel and against the U.S., speaking at the UN. There were Arab and Muslim countries that were against Israel and its role in the war. All over the globe,
You're showing it right fucking here, right?
nations have come together, and leaders in particular, to endorse this plan. They've had enough. And even some of the Islamists are supporting it as well. We have, instead of Israel being isolated, which it almost always is, in the UN and around the world, we have Hamas that's been isolated by this agreement.
Interesting.
So it has to make concessions because it has no choice. It's a very flipping of...
It's not even a real thing, right? You know, Hamas has got to be an Israeli asset, which I've talked about before. Like, nothing else makes sense. It's the only thing that makes sense because everything Hamas has done since October, before this, but since October 6th or 7th or whatever it is, has been to make it so that Israel can get what it wants, which is a land grab. The outcome of this thing is what Israel's wanted all along, right? And Israel's isolated because everybody fucking knows it. And America backing them makes it impossible for people to put real pressure on them, and at least on a military level. And so, you know, the title of this video is Flipping the Script, Hamas is Isolated by Trump's Gaza Peace Plan, experts say. Well, yeah, fucking, of course they're isolated. Because Trump's a BB Israeli taint licker, right? They own the fucking guy. I've never seen a guy so much owned by another country before, a president. And so, you know, it's just, it's horrific. They got this woman who looks like she's got, you know, she's got PTSD who's just reading this thing. Like, you know, it's a fucking disaster there. I mean, it's a horrible thing that happened. And it's not like the American people are, like, over it. They're not. And, you know, it's just that eventually people are going to be like, we don't want to fucking give money to Israel. I mean, people are saying that now. It's going to make it into the political debates and things, right? Where there's going to be candidates running on cutting funding to Israel. I mean, that's where this is headed. We'll see if it goes there, you know, because they're all owned anyway. But anyways, so my very, very favorite video clip of the day is these two cats were in together and they kept on fighting. So they put them in separate cages. Sounds like some sort of Asian country. They just keep on going at it. they're not really clawing each other, so they seem almost like kittens that are just maybe, you know. I just was on Twitter or X, and this came up spontaneously. I'm like, this is my favorite thing all day. Like they're doing. I wish they had like hours of this thing. They're just going at it, right? And so they somehow figured out, like they can't really, you know, somehow they figured out they're next to each other. I guess they could smell each other because, you know, they're animals. Get in there. Come on, fuck you guys. All right. So I got some comments. I got a prequel to a comment. Let's get into that here. Okay, so I got a very long comment, and I did like a 20-minute bit on it. And I went out to take my dogs for a walk. It's late here. And I realized I wanted to add something here because, you know, I said the person is entitled, which is true. But the other part is that the person, and you're going to hear the comment in a moment, you know, in the voiceover I've already made. I'm not going to add this to the end of it. I'm going to make it a prequel. But the person thinks they're special, right? Which is always a big thing. Because that's what the controllers think. People think that the rules don't apply to them. People think that they should get special treatment. You know, it's being entitled, but it's even worse than that. And so you can apply this to the comment when you hear it. So the person wants special treatment because there is something that some people like in terms of my videos, the way I make my videos, that some people say they like this specific thing. Just like when people say, you know, I wish you wouldn't swear, and other people say I love it when you swear. Right? Some viewers want one way, some viewers want it the other way. I do it the way that I want to do it because that's what I get to do here, right? Whether you watch or not is your choice, but you have all the power. You have the power to watch or not watch, right? You have the power to participate. I put out the content, you choose what to do with it. But that's not enough for people. They want to have control over the way I do the content. They want me to make it specific to them and cater to them. But what's even worse than that is they know that this person knows and mentioned that they're breaking rules that I have. I say I don't have a complaint department. But this person felt like they were entitled to complain because they're fucking special. I'm special, so I get to complain. You know, I'm special. You should cater your videos to me. Even though you've heard the answer many times. I mean, they are already responding to another comment that someone else left, and I gave that person an answer. And this person, you know, could have said, oh, I have that same problem. This is Paul's answer. It could be an FAQ, right? I'm giving my answer to this specific issue, which was length of the video. And this person's like, hey, I'm going to fucking present the same fucking problem because I deserve to have my answer directly instead of just listening to the 100 times Paul addressed these type of things. Complaints and people wanting special treatment, right? Which are, you know, bannable offenses. You don't get special treatment. You're not doing anything for me. You're not special viewer. You're not someone better than every fucking buddy else. You know the rules. You know my boundaries. You know the things I say about what's acceptable in the comment section and what's bannable. And this person went ahead and did it anyway because they think they're special, right? And what do we think about people who think they're special, think that the rules don't apply to them? Right? That's probably the biggest part of all these problems. It's not just being special, it's being better than and know-it-all and all these types of things, right? So the other piece of this is I had this story I wanted to relate. So years ago, I was sort of redshirting for Central Connecticut State University. It was a Division II school that could have won the Division II championship the year before I got there. But they graduated all their good players. I had, connection to the coach. My nephew dated some guy who was in charge of admissions to the school. It's a shitty little state school in one of the armpits of America called New Britain, Connecticut. That was a kind of very dingy city, shitty little city that had a Stanley tool factory that had just closed. This is in the late 80s, early 90s, whatever it was. And, it was just, not great, right? So probably this is probably 1988 or 9, something like that, late 80s. And I was talking to the coaches possibly redshirting for the basketball team. And there was a guy I knew. I played a lot of park ball at this park in West Hartford, Connecticut, which got a lot of diverse people. Like there was good basketball there, really quality players. Some nights were better than others, but that's like every park. And there's a guy that I had played basketball there when he was in high school. I had grown up in West Hartford, Connecticut, and he went to there's 2 high schools there. He went to the other one, but we knew each other from the park, right? And so we saw each other in college, and he said, "I'm getting a YMCA basketball team together," and we became friends. We ended up doing a basketball team. We got a sponsor. Like there's a bar called the Sports Page. And the Y League in New Britain was like incredible. There was like ex-college basketball players, and sometimes they were like semi-pro. I mean, there's really good play. There's high level of basketball there. And he got most of the players. He knew a bunch of people. He was really social. He was a Jewish guy. He was about 5'9", smaller guy. And I lived above this bar called the Dean's Office, and there was an old man renting to my roommate. My roommate was like a real sort of like a manipulative person, like some guy who always had a bunch of deals going on. Like he was a rent-a-cop, but also like a minor drug dealer. Like he was just, he was a hustler kind of person. And he rented out he subletted, this is a 3-bedroom apartment. And the guy who was renting to him just wanted to keep one person in there so he could get a tax break. He had 5 apartments in the building. He kept vacant. He was a real old, crunchy old man. And he had painted tar on all the floors to keep water from leaking through. The place was kind of falling apart. Like I had to come up this back staircase that was, made out of wood. And it was not like fucking, it was very sketchy, right? And I wasn't supposed to be there, but I paid $100 a month, and we had like cable. The roommate guy, he had fucking finagled this deal. He was stealing cable somehow. He was like just just one of those people, right? And the old guy eventually burned down the building. But there was a bar down below called the Dean's Office, which was always packed with college kids. It smelled of urine and beer. It was just disgusting. But we used to go play basketball, and we'd go to our bar that sponsored us, but oftentimes we ended up at the bar downstairs. And one day, my buddy I formed the basketball team with, he still listens to my videos, or he found my channel. He occasionally contacts me once or twice a year. His son is kind of a truther and wrote some essay he sent me. But so he had 2 of his friends from high school that were a part of our team. One guy was a 6'8" stoner. He now works at Martha's Vineyard on a fishing boat. He was into the Grateful Dead. He was, pretty good athlete, pretty nice guy, pretty chill. And the other guy was kind of a douche. He had called my friend the K word when they were in high school over and over again. They were like hanging out, with a bunch of people, which is a derogatory term to Jewish people. And my buddy punched him in the face, like eventually. He's much smaller than the guy, right? Which I said, yeah, you fucking totally deserve that for being like, it wasn't that he just called him like a sort of a racist word, but he was doing it over and over again like a little child. And so we ordered pizza. And there's a pizza place maybe downstairs around the corner, something like that. And we got 2 large pizzas, and this one guy, the large pizzas were like whatever they were back then. Let's call them $10. And he had like $8. And he expected us to pay for some of his. He wanted a pizza just to himself because he was a greedy fuck, right? He was about 6'5", kind of a big guy. And, the 3 of us split 2 large pizzas. So we got 3 pizzas. He had one to himself. And we paid for his pizza plus the tip, right? I had money because I was working multiple jobs. And so, I didn't care about the money part. But we fucking slammed the guy, not just that night. but constantly for being like that, right? Because he thought he was special and he was like a fucking prima donna, and and guys, men don't like that shit, right? Adults don't like that shit, or even punk ass college kids, right? And so, being special or being entitled, you might get something because you nag at it and people might give in to you, but they resent it. And in our case, we told them all the time what a piece of shit he was, right? And so, if you want a pizza for yourself, bring enough fucking money to pay for it and pay for part of the tip, because that's what you fucking owe, you piece of shit, right? I mean, even today, I still feel that way about it. These people who are very kind of weak and, needy and entitled, and, they think the world owes them something, right? They think they're special. And guess what? You're fucking not, right? That's one of the things that you learn when you're a spiritual person. You're not special. It's your effort and your willingness to serve God, or your willingness to give to other people, or contribute something, right? What are you contributing? Like these non-contributing motherfuckers who want special treatment. The guy sucked. He was a horrible basketball player. He was tall, but, he's just a non-contributing motherfucker. And nobody likes those people. Those are people least like. Anyways, here's the comment. Okay, it's Sunday, October 5th. It's almost time for the 9 o'clock prayer here. So I'm going to try to get some of these comments answered. So here's the first one. And it's a doozy. So a person writes, this is Turning Point hemorrhaging viewers, ghoulish trumps Gaza. Whatever it is. It's cut off. Not important. Paul, a few weeks ago you covered a comment about your videos being too long. Now go ahead and try to smash me. But there's merit to this. Most of us have less than 50 videos to watch across a plethora of topics. Most of us have 50 videos to watch across a plethora of topics. That sounds like a you problem. And so I think you probably should have thought about that before telling me about it, because it has zero to do with me, right? You can have 0 videos to watch across no topics. I mean, it's totally arbitrary. That's based on your problem. That's your problem right there. I understand that your natural response to this is vitriol. I don't have vitriol. You guys take it the way you want it. Almost every time that I comment, it's because I think every time I comment, it's the person's being offensive in some way. Not that I'm offended, but, it's a person being like unpleasant about something and, narcissistic or whatever else. But anyways, let me read this through and then because other people responded. However, this is a fact, brother, and we don't have the time. Now go ahead and ban me. Thanks. Thanks for giving me permission. What does that even mean? Like, where are you going? Like, you're already you're having an argument in your mind that doesn't exist, right? Like saying this is vitriol when it's not, telling me go ahead and ban you, which you must obviously want in some way. Like, this is like childish, right? You understand this? Like, I don't need anybody's permission to ban them. And the way you don't get banned is you don't write comments when I say this is a bannable offense. Like, I'm putting up rules here. Well, let me go through. Well, let me say this. I put up my boundaries and my rules and why you get banned. I tell people very specifically why you get banned. If somebody wants to get unbanned, they just have to, take ownership of what they did and say, I won't do that again, and I'll unban them, right? It's not like, not great for me. But if somebody sincerely is, apologetic, and not that I need an apology, but they, clearly learned their lesson and they realize what they did wrong, then I have no problem unbanning people. It's just that if you are doing things when someone says don't do them, which this person is, I don't have a complaint department, and I've already commented on the length of my videos multiple times. You're having some other kind of a deal here, like whatever this kind of thing represents to you and your problems with authority or whatever the fuck's going on in your internal world. Don't drop it on me. That's what I say. This is your bullshit. Don't drop your bullshit on me, right? Like, I think I give good quality content, and a lot of times you guys return it with your own fucking overbearing bullshit, right? Which is fucked up on your part. But this is legitimate. I've stretched my time watch your videos. I stretched my time to watch your videos, and the wife likes you as well. I'm not afraid to let you know, as I am an asshole like you. Yeah, I don't think that's really what it is going on. I don't think the asshole category is what this comment sounds like. It sounds like something else. You could have shortened the deal. You could shorten the deal. We appreciate it. I like you and you're good. Think about our grievance here and empathize. No, I don't think about your grievances. And I've talked about this over and over again. And then the person gets into Tim Pool. As for Tim Pool and his "Are you cold, bro" vibe, I appreciate. Please don't take this poorly, but you will shorten up the speech. You'll inevitably get more views, and viewers consider it before lashing out. I mean this because I'm correct here. I mean this because I am correct here. Take care, brother. And I certainly do. And I certainly do lunch sometime. I'd have put off this private message, but I can't find a direct vein to you. Consider it. Don't pucker up. Your brother, somebody. Okay, so before I respond, this was the responses from other people. What a weird ass comment to leave. You don't have to watch the entire video. Somebody else. Those two different comments. This is a message to Paul, and I don't require any refereeing towards the goal, but thank you. Why are you thanking him? An asshole wouldn't thank him. If you were a true asshole, you wouldn't thank him. I just watch the long ones in increments. Usually takes me a couple days, not a major biggie. Enjoy the free content and chill. Who are you to demand that Paul requests your, he said semen, but I think the guy meant sermon. You could start your own channel discussing all your Jedi you've hunted down. And this, I responded to him by saying, maybe not. I don't have that comment. Maybe I do here. I have part of it. I stand in and play soldier. This was a message to Paul, and you are not him. And then the rest of his message is cut off. This other person, you're a special kind of indigent toddler. Indigent toddlers. Nobody's going to comic book store and telling you how to price your toys. Don't write your self-righteous, needy double paragraph comments, and you won't get responses having to be formulated with crayons. So you get, and that this says read more. I didn't realize that comment had more to it. Feels like a dumb fuckistan comment somebody else wrote. Okay, so here's my response to this. If you've heard me deal with this with other people, then why the fuck would you even comment on it, right? Why would you bother me with this? Like, how are you, is this, like a symbiotic relationship? You said that my content is good, and this is my position on it, and there'll be multiple people, read the comments to this particular, your band, but read the comments that people will leave, and so many people say I like the longer videos. There are people who listen to me for 2 hours a day, and I don't know why. I mean, I'm not a fan of my own show. I wouldn't ask any of you to listen to me for 1 hour or 2 hours a day, right? Unless you were getting something out of it. Like, that's your choice. But I'm not trying to force myself on any of you. I'm not putting pressure on you to watch the whole video or any of the videos. I say you're welcome to leave. Like, just, but in terms of the comments, there's certain rules, and you broke like 3 or 4 of them unnecessarily because of your own fucking arrogance and your own fucking narcissism and whatever else is going on here. It is like a fucking toddler. I mean, it's not like an asshole. It's like a toddler. It's somebody like, oh, yeah, I know more than you. I know that these break your rules, but I get to because I'm right and you're wrong. And this has nothing to do with the length of the videos, right? Because I've said over and over again, I don't want you to watch them for my behalf, right? If you're not getting anything out of them, then that's fine. Like, just go somewhere else. Do something else. It's your time. I don't expect anybody, I don't walk up to people and go, hey, I want to rant for 2 fucking hours about a number of topics. You want to sit there and listen to me? And holding them by gunpoint or some shit? Like, I need that. I don't need that, right? I would feel bad about that. When I have conversations with people, it isn't like these, whatever I do here. There's a time, and I quit my first attempt at college, and I was using drugs. I was working third shift, and I must have been depressed or something. I don't know what I was, but like I would go into a grocery store, like a convenience store, like a 7-Eleven, and I wouldn't say a fucking word. Like I would barely talk to people, like at all. My parents, if I had to talk to people at work, I think I was working as a security guard, and I would go into a store and the person would say hi, whatever. I'd say nothing, and they'd ask me how much it was. I'd have the whole interaction, pay without saying a fucking word, which probably creeped the other person out. I just wasn't into it, right? Like I just didn't feel like talking. But it's hard for me to watch anything for a couple of hours. Sometimes when my wife are, driving somewhere together, we'll listen to some kind of podcast, depending on how long we're driving or whether we're going on a trip. And then, if I have to listen to something or I find something interesting, whatever it might be. But, I don't expect people to listen for hours. I don't expect people to listen at all. Like, it's not, it's not like I think I'm owed that or something. Like, it's just, you owe me to sit there and listen to my shit, my opinions. Like, that would be unbelievably arrogant and just fucking weird. Like, it's weird to think that. I wouldn't force this on anybody. Like, I wouldn't make it mandatory if I had some sort of power and control that everybody listened to me, right? Because even if people listen to me, I think oftentimes they don't hear me or it doesn't have an effect, and that's nothing to do with me. Like, what people do with it after they've heard it is up to them. How people interpret what I say, how it affects them, whether they feel there's value in it, whether they do anything with it, if they listen to me and change their way of doing. But like, obviously, for you've listened to me for hours and hours, you've listened to these comment videos, and you still chose to break all these rules about it, all these boundaries that are in place, and over something that I've already told you over and over again, it's what I have to do, right? Financially, and the way that everything's structured now, I have to make long videos every day. There was a time that I would cover subjects like Full House, or Michael Jackson when he was doing his thing, or Prince's death, or, whatever, Illuminati stuff. And they were different kinds of videos. It would take me a day and a half, sometimes 2 days to complete the videos. The videos would drain me. And they were videos that people could watch over time. They might be whatever amount of time the length of the video was. Because of the subject matter, because YouTube was more open to promote channels like mine. I used to get millions of views on some of them. I didn't have to make a video every day. Because, these videos would take off, and sometimes they would like spiral. They would gain views over several days. Right now, my videos, I get the majority of views in the first 24 hours, then about maybe a third of the views in a third or less than that. Sometimes, a tenth of the views the next day, and then almost no views after that, right? Because that's the way the algorithms work. And because YouTube doesn't pay as much money, I don't have as many viewers, whatever the ads, these various things. For me to make a 10-minute video or 20-minute video, it just would not be financially viable. I wouldn't make it, even if I had a lot more viewers, it just wouldn't be enough money to generate this, to make this into a job, right? And it wouldn't be more viewers. So there's plenty of people who like the long format videos, and that's just what it is. But the idea should be there for every person that you only have to watch part of the fucking video. You can do various things to search for the parts. You can search the transcript and find keywords in the transcript to see the things you want to hear me talk about. Ignore the other things. I mean, I don't even need to tell you this, right? This isn't my fucking problem. Like, that's your problem. Why do I have to tell you that, right? Like, why do you think it's mandatory that you watch a video, and where do you get the time to watch 50 different videos over various topics from all these various people? Like, Jesus Christ, is that, you got time for that? Like, I don't expect people to have 2 hours to watch me, but people watch shitty content all over the place, not just YouTube videos, but whatever it might be. People watch fucking, I don't know, The Bachelor or other bullshit reality TV show, or NCYS Albuquerque or whatever the fuck. People watch really shitty, dumbass television all the time. It has no value. And so there must be something here. And if this is worth watching, it's worth watching. If it's not, I could go do something else, right? If there wasn't people that were willing to watch or weren't getting out of something that I said, then it wouldn't be worth me making videos, right? This is not a debate. Whether I swear or not or do these things, you have your choice. You have all the power whether to watch it or not. Like, that's 100% in your hands. Nobody's forcing you to watch this. Certainly not me. I wouldn't want anybody watching this out of obligation or because of, they felt like, I was going to be bad at them or whatever it was. Like, you're perfectly welcome not to watch my videos. Like, that's, and again, I don't even need to say that. Just like you don't need to say, you can go ahead and ban me because, that's up to what I decide to do. And yeah, you did things that you knew were bannable. So, of course, you wanted to be banned. They're saying to me, I want to be banned. It's like a gambler says wanting to lose their money. Anyways, I had to take a break and do the 9 p.m. prayer. So just to wrap this thing up, this person said to the people commenting, this is a private comment to Paul, right? Which, the person made an excuse. They couldn't find any way to comment to me personally, which there are ways, but that wouldn't have been appropriate either, and wrote a very long comment, which I was not interested in any part of it. It just wasn't something I wanted to read, and I'm only reading it because I wanted to shit on it because of what the person did and said, right? But this person says to these other people in a, open forum, this is a private comment to Paul. None of you guys should be responding to this, right? But when I put out a boundary, multiple boundaries, and everybody knows it, and I get millions of comments, and I don't like my time wasted for a bunch of bullshit, some wanting special treatment, right? When there are plenty of people who like the long format videos and they don't watch all of it. You don't have to keep up with all of it. Like, that's your choice. If you think there's something worth listening to, then you have to make time. You have to figure that out on your end of whatever it is. Again, it has nothing to do with me. But I'm not forcing anything on you, but you're forcing yourself on me. Here, let me pull this thing up again here. The person says, again, a person who's complaining about something being too long, and then they write this long-ass comment, right? So most of us have most of us have no less than 50 videos to watch across a plethora of topics. A day? What do you mean 50 fucking videos? You watch 50 fucking videos a day? It sounds like you got more like a fucking other problem. Or what is that, even a week? I mean, you watch it. I understand that your natural response is vitriol. Like, you're making it sound like I'm the fucking asshole. And again, you're not being an asshole. You're being entitled, which is way worse than being an asshole. This is your entitlement. Like, people are supposed to, what are you doing for me? Like, you're not doing anything for me, right? I mean, for someone who's complaining about long videos, you've just added like 20 minutes to this one. And so we don't have the time. Now go ahead and ban me, but this is legitimate. Why? Why is it legitimate? So it's so legitimate you get to push past my rules and boundaries. I said I don't want these kind of comments. Now I know I'm going to get them because people suck, but that's why I ban you, so I don't get them again. And that banning is basically saying, I don't really want you here, right? Like, I don't respect or like you or think of you as a person that deserves what I have to offer here. Like, I can't stop you from watching it, but that's how I feel, right? Like, our thing's done. Like, this is, if this was some sort of relationship, I'd be like, yeah, I don't want to spend time with you. I don't really, this isn't working for me, right? This would be my way of saying, we're breaking up, right? I've stretched my time to watch your videos like you're doing me some kind of fucking favor. You stretched your time? How do you do that exactly? What do you, don't brush your teeth? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? You stretched your fucking time, right? Like, what is that? I stretched my fucking time? Oh, thanks, bro. I mean, thanks for stretching your time for accommodating my too long videos. And my wife likes as well. I think you should probably apologize to your wife because like, I barely know you, and this is like, this must suck for her. I'm not afraid to let you know, as I am an asshole like you. No, you're entitled. This is you being entitled, like you think you deserve special treatment, and I should tailor my fucking videos around you and your fucking time constraints, because you have 50 videos to watch a day. If you could shorten the deal, we'd appreciate it. Again, yeah, who's we? You're not speaking for everybody. You and your wife. I like you, and you're good. Think about our grievance here and empathize. No, I don't have grievances. There's no grievances here. You keep your grievances to your fucking self. You either like it or you don't. For me, this is, the one thing I would say about my videos, because of the Sajmark information. It took me a lifetime to be able to present information in the way that I do. And, I'm often spot on things, and that's great, but it's the spiritual stuff and years of meditation and all the information I've gathered through the Sajmark system, either through the meditation practice itself, but also reading the literature and listening to their speeches of Master Charji and learning all these things. And I'm passing that information on to everybody with everything else that I do here, because I was given it, and it was something that's really helped me. And so for those people who value it and get something out of it, the videos are there. But if you have complaints, fuck off. Go somewhere else. I don't care. It's not my problem, right? Your problem is not my problem. I hold up my end of the deal. I make content. You guys deal with that any way you want, right? Watch it, don't watch it. It really doesn't matter to me. It's up to you. My channel survives and has survived over the years because of the quality of the content. It isn't because I make people feel good. It isn't because I shout people out. It isn't because I network and I, find ways to do giveaways or whatever bullshit reasons to make you watch. I'm not manipulating you. I'm not trying to fucking force you to do anything, right? I provide what I think is top-notch quality content, especially the spiritual stuff. Lots of this stuff you can't get anywhere else. And for those people who see it and value it, because I value it, like I valued it when it was given to me. Like the stuff that I've gotten, and I had to work for it, right? I had to work a lot harder than you guys have to. Doing the meditation for years, traveling to India, all the things I do, reading and, doing all these things, developing as a person. And so I freely give all this stuff to everybody who watches the videos. Accept it or not, it's not my problem. It's a you problem. I think there's a couple more comments here. See this one. Not sure if war is the correct word to use. It's about Israel, Pakistan. In regards to Gaza, the media likes to imply by using the word slaughter and ethnic cleansing would be better way to describe it, in my opinion. I've already believed the Israelis knew that the attack would happen. There was few Israelis saying the same shortly after it. Some who had served in the army along the fence, they just did not believe it. It is ethnic cleansing. They wanted the land and the people gone, and once they have accomplished their goals in Gaza, they will turn their attention to the West Bank. Yeah, it isn't a war, and I don't know why I used to say this all the time, and I've kind of forgotten about that. But there's no war. You can't have a war when somebody doesn't have an army. It's like a boxing match between a professional boxer and a 3-year-old child, or a 10-year-old child, right? Like there's just the person has no arms, I mean, it'd be something like that, because there's the Palestinian people don't have a country, they don't have a government, they don't have access to lobbying groups outside, they don't have a seat at the UN, they don't have anything, they don't have any weapons, and they just are getting the shit kicked out of them. It's not a war, like it's just bullying, and I mean that's a mild way to describe it. And so it's not a war. I mean, to call it a war is just I mean, that's just crazy. That's not Charlie taking to SVB. It was a W. It was a double. W. It was a double. Charlie was sitting and he had a trap door under him. Don't know if he was killed or not. Oh, it's good that you at least said that, but how do you know this other stuff? People just announce these things. Nobody knows that stuff. Nobody knows if he's alive or not, any of these things. This person writes, the flat earthers live in Flat Tardia, which is next to Dumbfuckistan, and to the west is the Fucktardia, the dominating region. The dominating religion is based on the Kool-Aid Man. Yeah, I kind of like that comment. It's funny, but I think the flat earthers lived in Dumbfuckistan because it's just simple. And, and it's all made up. Anyways, that's it for this one. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely reporting from the Apocalypse and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.